All right, let's go ahead and begin. Welcome everybody to our city council meeting Tuesday, April 9th. Appreciate everybody being here. We'll begin tonight with opening remarks by Roy Swinson and Pledge of Allegiance by Paul Crook.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this opportunity to gather this evening in City Council. We're grateful, Father, for the blessing of our community and the freedoms we enjoy. And pray as we discuss the things that are important for our community, that we might have thy Spirit to guide and direct us. Again, we're grateful for all that we have and pray that thou would guide us this night. And this we ask in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
All rise. Repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, appreciate that. Let's do a roll call. Jim, we'll start with you.
Jim Chase,
Jared Peterson.
Nelson Abbott,
Ty Ellis.
Trisha Thomas.
Paul Crook.
Thank you. If we can get approval of the agenda and time frame.
so stated.
Want to have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Public forum, Royce?
1 second. Greg, is that Greg?
Yep.
Great. Just state your name and
Greg Shelton. I've come on. This is my third time. Just curious as to what we're going to do about the city property park in between Horizon View Loop and Bear Hollow, north of Skyhawk.
so will you frame that in a statement? Because if you want to get into a discussion, I'm happy to do that, but we'll do it after this meeting.
I was
So we
told this
can-
is the time to do it. I called in on last Wednesday and I was told this would be the time to discuss. I asked to be on the agenda and they said just do it during public forum. Last time they had me get on the agenda, but this time they told me not to come. Just do it during this time.
Yeah, well, you're not on the official agenda, so all you can do is make a statement. But I do want to, the administration should work.
Whoever I
with
called,
that.
because I called last Wednesday, your guys' time frame to get on the agenda, and whoever I talked to here, I told them what I wanted to do. I wanted to be on the agenda, and they said the time to do it would be before the meeting, and I didn't need to be on there.
Hmm.
I don't know who the gentleman was that answers the phones during the day, but it was Wednesday, last Wednesday.
Yeah. So which property are you talking about? Wanna make sure it
It's the open space area where the
Between-
2 detention ponds are.
Oh, okay.
Right below Skyhawk Drive.
Right.
Yeah.
where
I
the
think we've
parking
talked
lot
about
is.
this 2 or 3 times I've come in over the
Okay.
last few years.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to discuss it with you, but I'd like to do it where we can have a more of a discussion kind of time, figure out what's going on. That's mostly an administrative thing, so. And we certainly would take your input and bring it back to the council and
Okay.
do that, so.
Last time we talked about it in council meeting, but I don't think you were here. It was when Shelley was here.
Was
Yeah.
it that long ago?
Was there? I think there was a couple.
Because I remember.
You were here, yeah. Dell was here.
Um,
Well, last time we talked about it was when.
So if you ask the
well,
question, I'll be honest with you, you ask it right now, no one's gonna give you an answer.
Okay,
Because
so
we
what
haven't-
do I need to do next time then? Because whoever I called in
So
told me to do it
So I
next
want to
time.
meet with city staff and myself,
Okay,
all right? And then we can set up and figure out more how to go forward and have a discussion and at that point in time, and then I can brief the council and we can have a discussion that makes a much more sensible discussion.
okay, so my steps are,
Talk with Royce or with Laura and make a time where we can get together and chat.
okay,
Certainly willing to do that.
okay, so call in tomorrow. Are you here during the day? Are you the one maybe I talked to?
Yes.
Okay, and you told me to come in today and talk about it.
So we certainly do that.
Okay, so I will call you.
Because I do
tomorrow.
want to, I'm not trying to just blow you off. I'm sure, I want to hear, because that is a real problem area down there and I'm
Yeah,
definitely
has been for
concerned about
years.
it.
Okay,
So,
so call him tomorrow?
yeah, or do it right now if you want.
Yeah, whatever we need to do, I'd like to
Okay.
make sure
Anybody else, Royce?
it moves forward.
On there? Yeah, let's do that and then, because I do want to hear and follow up with you for sure.
Okay, so when can what would you like me to do?
Okay, will
What's your
you,
Friday like?
will you just work with him, Royce, and make sure that we get a time where we can do that in the near future?
Are you off on Friday?
I could be.
Okay,
Only around this Friday, but not this Friday.
all right, we're gonna move on and go to ranked choice voting, and I think we've got some county folk here that will help us understand how that works. And I guess
You're on Friday.
we have an opportunity to opt in, I think,
Yep.
right?
Wait, what,
So-
you don't have to?
Nope, from that. So they're gonna explain it, so
So.
your time.
Yeah, so thank you. My name is Josh Daniels. I'm the Chief Deputy Clerk Auditor for Utah County.
Yes.
We cover the elections department and some other functions. This is Linda Alsup. She's our, sorry, Lisa. Lisa Alsup. And she is our elections coordinator, so she works directly with various cities that we work with to run the municipal elections. So a little bit of background. Representative Mark Roberts, who I believe is actually your representative, he got a bill passed 2 years ago that created an opportunity for cities to use ranked choice voting as an option where they wouldn't have to have a primary. Because if you have so many candidates that you need to have a primary and then a general, you can instead just have a general, and through the ranked choice voting, the residents can vote on all those candidates, and the elimination process is automatic as part of the tabulation. And so you can select winners that still win with a majority vote through ranked choice voting. And it eliminates the need to run a primary, which saves cities a lot of money. So then this year, there was a few additional changes made that cities were asking for to just better accommodate them on the process. But basically that program still stays in effect, but this is the first year cities can do it. So I just brought as a visual aid a sample ballot of what it would look like for residents who do ranked choice voting and kind of what that would look like. This is just kind of a fun example.
Why am I not on?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a Star Wars
Exactly.
All
character.
right, you're running all right.
I'm Princess Leia.
Good job at the hut.
So this is kind of what a ballot would look like for ranked choice. So like, let's say that President of the Galaxy was, you were selecting one and you've got 5 candidates. Well, in a normal election, the person who wins doesn't necessarily get 50%. It's just whoever gets the most votes. And that always leaves voters disappointed, and they always wonder, and they think about, oh, I'm going to waste my vote, and all these kinds of things. But with ranked choice, you just mark your first, second, third, fourth, fifth choice. And then through our elections tabulation software, it'll go through the process of elimination to figure out who was last, and then the last place person gets eliminated, and then the votes are tabulated so that every voter gets to vote on all the candidates, and through the rank order, then that's how you select a winner. So that's how that works. So this is an option for cities this year. All you have to do is basically write a letter to the Lieutenant Governor's office saying that your city would like to do it. And you have to send that letter to them by April 15th. So you can make that choice. Now from Utah County, we can accommodate you to do ranked choice like this, where you wouldn't have to have a primary, or we can do the traditional, sort of whatever you decide, but we can also talk more in detail about kind of the vote by mail and how that looks this year and that sort of thing. So maybe I should pause there and see if there's some questions or.
Okay, so on this ranked choice, because I've used this, we've utilized this before with the Republican Party in our precinct and
Yep,
doing some
exactly.
of this. So you go through, and is this, because I don't have enough of the information, but I
Sure.
guess if one candidate doesn't get 50% of the votes or a majority, then do we take the lowest one out and then retabulate?
Uh-huh. Yep.
So
Distribute those votes based
That's
on
right.
the next.
based on who gets the second choice. And
That's right.
So theoretically, you could have somebody that really somebody didn't want in office getting in office.
Well, so what happens is the person who wins is always the person who gets a majority of support. So you don't have a plurality situation. So that's what ranked choice helps do, is helps eliminate the plurality victory. You always have a majority. Because you're always, basically what it does is it automates the process of having everybody show up here at City Hall,
and, we're in a big town hall meeting, and we say, okay, we're gonna vote for, for mayor, we got 5 candidates, let's vote, everybody votes for one, and then you say, okay, John got the least number of votes, so now John's out. Now let's vote again. We got 4 candidates left. Now vote again. And you keep doing that, right? And you could do that, in theory, you could have everybody show up on election night or something, you could do that. But this automates that process so that voters can cast one ballot and automate that process.
So how is this tabulated? Because I'm just thinking logistically, like if we've got to have city staff, election officials come in and they're sitting down and they've got to stack them, because I know how tedious it can be.
No, this is automated. We have
Completely
ballot
automated
scanners.
with the software.
Yeah. So all the voter gets is they get this ballot, in the mail. They vote, they mark their choices, they put it in the envelope, send it back to us, and then we've got the sophisticated equipment that goes through and scans this, digitizes this information, we have the data, and then that tabulation process is automated. So.
What if we want to have them come in and actually vote in a voting booth and participate and exercise their rights?
Get their
that way?
sticker.
And get their sticker as opposed to just mailing it in through the mail, participation toward the vote.
We're gonna have stickers. Stickers are gonna be sent out in
Yeah,
mail.
those are important.
So, yeah, we're working with a new mail vendor where our intention is to actually include the sticker in the packet that they get in the mail. So every ballot that, gets sent out will include a flyer that will have a sticker, and they can do that. So if you didn't want to do a vote by mail and you wanted to run your own election, I guess we could talk about the details of what that would look like. So Highland was considering the same thing. They were considering doing their own election, not doing like with the county by mail, and they figured out it would actually cost them more to run their own election because of all the compliance with election law that they as a city would have to manage. They found it cheaper to just contract with vote by mail with the county. So, there's things you got to think about. If you want to do a election day type of setup, you still have to do early vote. Because if you don't do vote by mail, then by law you have to have early vote for a number of days. So that would mean you'd have to sort of staff the office here as an early vote location. You have to think about, well, you got about 2,000 voters. How many voters do you think are going to come? How many do you think are going to come on election day? Let's say it's 25%. So that's 500 people showing up on a Tuesday for that election day here at the city. I don't know what your parking's like, but you get people getting off work at 5, they want to come by. Let's say half of your voters want to do that. You got 250 people that are going to come here to your office between 5 and 7 p.m. How are you going to accommodate that? These are the things you have to think about. Would you have a second polling location in the city? Do you have a site that you can use? You can lease a facility, you can staff it. These are all the kinds of sort of challenges you got to think through. That's why I think you see the whole state that's now going to vote by mail. In the 2020 general election next year, everybody's going to be doing vote by mail. So there's some reasoning to say you want citizens in Elkridge to get used to that process of vote by mail where they get the ballot in the mail and they send it back, because that's how it's going to be next year. So all those kinds of things to think about. You're kind of on the bubble there where, we've got smaller towns like Fairfield where they got like 150 voters. It's a little bit easier to have 150 people show up on election day at the city office versus 2,000. It depends on how many of the 2,000 show up, right? But
That's never happened.
yeah. So, but you do see higher vote turnout when you do vote by mail, so you get more citizens engaged. Especially the other thing with ranked choice is people feel like they have more options because it's not just vote for one, but they get to weigh in on all the candidates. So because you can vote them based on your preference.
So, I can add a few things.
Well, I know Salem opted not to.
Payson opted to, and Salem opted not to. Do you know why Salem opted not to?
No.
Well, they wanted to just keep,
I kind of do too.
from what I've
I
read.
like it too.
I don't
From what,
understand this.
from what I've read, they did it because the will wasn't broken, so
Exactly.
why fix it?
Well,
I mean,
so
that was the feedback that I got.
right,
But
yeah.
What if I don't wanna vote for
You
5
come and
people?
take this?
And I only wanna vote, oh, it's Seth.
It's Seth.
You can, so you
What if I
can,
only want, it's Java or bust?
yeah, you can do
Hello,
that.
this is Roy.
So in ranked choice, you can rank as many or as few as you want. You don't have to rank them
Can
all.
I give him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? No, I can only do one, huh?
So there, if job is your first choice, then you mark first choice and that's that. And if
So
you
do
don't
they
want
get,
any of the others, you don't have to.
I just don't understand. So if I only vote for Java and he didn't make the cut of the first, then my vote essentially doesn't count.
Your
It's the same.
vote won't, your vote went to the loser.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it.
And that happens
Do
now,
you
right?
find that results are the same based on this as if they did the traditional one?
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
does that change election results?
well, no, it doesn't change election results if you were to do multiple round voting. So if you got everybody here in the city, you know, and you brought them here in the room and you said, okay, we got 5 candidates, let's have a vote. Okay, these 4, you know, this one got the least, we're eliminating, let's do another round, let's do another round. That's the exact same scenario, you just do it with one ballot, with a ranked choice ballot.
So if it doesn't change results, then what would be the benefit to doing it? Do you know what
No
I'm saying?
primary,
Well,
Get rid of a okay, but we can't even get
Right,
rid of the
I-
primary, so like,
my-
let's get realistic here.
Well, so with plurality is the problem. So if you do multiple rounds, you know the winner has a majority because you've narrowed it down, and everybody gets to choose between all the candidates and decide, you know, who gets the majority vote. The traditional way, where you have 5 candidates, you vote for one, you get a winner who got 20%. Maybe 80% didn't want that person, but 20% did. And the rest were all kind of divvied up among all these different candidates. So you end up with a winner that got far less than the majority. So this kind of eliminates that problem.
you just get.
well, the only reason that's a problem is if you don't have a primary.
Well, then
I mean, if you have a primary, then you knock it down to the point where you're not gonna be,
We're not
you're not gonna divide it down to 20% of the vote or whatever. I mean, unless, you know, like we've had elections where, for whatever reason, you know, let's say you have 500 people come in and vote, and yet, if you take the add up all the votes cast, it doesn't equal or divide out by, let's say you got 3 candidates running, instead of 1,500 votes, you'll have like 900, because
Yeah.
some people just flat out aren't gonna vote for someone. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a personal thing for them. You know, I've wondered why, because I've had some conversations with Mark Roberts about this. Why we haven't tried to do this at the party level where we're putting them into office. Because if it had been done this way, Mark Roberts wouldn't have been in office. Because it came down to a coin toss, the year that he made it
So it
through.
does, so it does change the results.
It would have then.
What it
So-
means is that the winner has a majority rather than the winner has a plurality, which is less than 50%. That's the difference. That's the core difference.
I just don't understand, I have to understand the math behind it in order to say yes. Like if you vote number 1, do they essentially get 5 points and then your number 2 gets 4 points and it's like a point?
No.
Not at all.
No.
See, I cannot understand the math behind
It's
it.
simply,
I've seen some paper in a statistical analysis.
so you just add up how many votes a person gets,
Just period.
period.
Right.
So but what if everybody votes for 5 people, then they all get 5 votes?
Here's a
You know what
simple
I'm saying?
scenario.
No,
Yeah, 'cause
you
you
can't,
vote
no,
first,
no, no,
second,
no, no,
choice,
because you
third.
do the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth.
In fact, if you wanted, we could actually take and do a sample vote right here and tally it up, and you could show us how it works, and you'd go, oh.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do
Oh.
that. So,
I graduated from the U with honors, though.
that's great. If I can use the whiteboard, I can just quickly show you a
He could probably
little
lay it
math here.
out,
So,
but
let's say that, let me make sure I don't pick the wrong names.
That's right.
You got Java?
Explaining that.
Okay, we got Mean Mike.
Because they'll dig into
Oh,
the understand though.
What?
Okay, we got
Some get it,
Sweet
some
Susie,
others don't, that's where you're gonna rub it.
Trashy,
and we got OK Orville. Okay? So, Mean Mike, you either love him or you hate him. Okay, so 40% of the people in the city absolutely love Mean Mike, but 60% don't like him. And those 60% are split between, let's say, 35% that like Sweet Susie and 25% that like OK Orville. Okay, and make sure my math's right here. That adds up to 60, right? So you got 100. That's percentage. So you got one spot. Let's just say it's the mayor spot, and this is how it breaks out. So Mean Mike wins.
Yeah,
wins the election.
he should.
He should, right? But 60% hate him.
Doesn't matter, he got the majority of
So-
the votes.
No,
He didn't get a
he didn't
majority.
get a majority.
He got
He
40%.
didn't get a majority.
Out of the three people.
He just got the most.
Out of those three people, he got the majority of votes out of those three.
He got the most.
You got the most. We call this a plurality victory, where you get the most, but it's not a majority. It's not 50% plus one. So now, this is because the reason we use this system today is because it's the simplest system. It's really easy, it's not expensive, you vote once, you don't have multiple rounds, you don't have to have everybody in the city show up and say, okay, we're gonna run it. Hey, OK Orville's out now, it's down to Sweet Susie and me and Mike. How do you vote now? And everybody who likes OK Orville votes for Sweet Susie and she wins. So that's how ranked choice works, is that in one ballot, it's equally simple. You cast one ballot, it's equally cheap. You cast one ballot, it's equally logistically doable because you don't have everybody showing up. And you do a ranked choice. So in this case, what this percentage is instead of just votes, this is first place votes. This is their first place votes. Now, it so happens that OK Orville, everybody who voted first place for OK Orville, they put Sweet Susie second place. So what happens is we eliminate OK Orville through the tabulation process, and these 25% votes go to Sweet Susie. Now Sweet Susie gets 60% of the vote, and Mike gets 40%. So Sweet Susie's the winner. She got a majority. She got 60%. So now the true preference of the community, which was, if we were all really honest, we prefer Sweet Susie over Mean Mike, but Mean Mike always wins because he's got a loyal 40%, whereas the rest of us are kind of split between Susie and Orville, right? So this is kind of the reason why you do the ranked choice, is to get rid of the plurality victory, replace it with a majority victory. Now everybody's happy. They don't feel like, well, me and Mike, he won, but he only got 40%. He didn't get a majority.
So
And so-
in this example, what happens is when they scratched out OK Orville,
Right?
and he had 25% of the votes, right?
Yeah, I understand what
Then they
happened.
look at the
I
second,
don't know if I like
what all
that.
those people voted for second, right?
Yeah,
And that's what gets split.
but I don't know if I like that like your second, like to me, I'm like, it's all in, go big or go home, right?
Well,
I kind of subscribe to that
it seems
mentality.
really unfair to the OK Orville
No,
supporters.
to me, it feels really unfair to Mean Mike, because if he had the most votes,
First place votes, yeah.
first place, if, then
But he
I,
didn't
then
get
in
a
my mind, he
majority.
should have.
So then what happens is the OK
So
Orville,
essentially, to me, it looks like everyone that voted for OK Orville just got to vote a second time. And that's not how it works. That's how I'm perceiving
Sure.
it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's not how it works.
yeah,
You pick your guy, and if your guy doesn't win, sorry about your luck.
yeah, well,
Do
you
you get
get
that?
a plurality.
Does anyone else agree with me at
Well,
all?
But if you have a primary, it eliminates Orville, and then she wins.
Sometimes, but primaries don't always mean it just goes down to 2.
Well,
That's
it
right.
allows the second
In a
choice to
multi-district
play.
race where you have, or multi-member race where you have like all at-large city council members. And with, you guys have, you have 5 members, so you go 3-2, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So 1 year it's 3 and 1 year it's 2. In a
Usually.
year when you've got 3 people up for election, you can have 6 people on the ballot in the general election.
We got 4 this
Well,
year.
we could have up to 8 this time. So
8
we may not
candidates.
Yeah, because we've got,
Four of us.
we've got 4 council positions.
Oh, yeah,
One of
4,
them is
because you have a
for
2.
years.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah, 2.
yeah.
So-
So you can have up
I mean,
to 8
we'll have
on a
up to
ballot.
8.
I just feel like
In
you
general.
back your horse, and that's that. You don't get, oh, I didn't win, okay, I get second.
So that's an
That goes
interesting
to my
point, right?
first.
You back your horses is what we call in the voting world strategic voting. So what you're saying is the way the rules are currently, we're telling voters, don't vote for who you want, vote for who you strategically think will win.
No, I
so
vote for who I want.
Well, because the OK Orville voters have to say, you know,
Yeah, I voted for someone that
But,
didn't.
but if they're looking at it and they're honest with themselves and they know OK's not gonna get elected, then they should vote for Sweet Susie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
their
Right,
second
pick your
choice.
horse
So the
and
Instead of
voters-
giving OK any votes to begin with.
exactly. And that's where the voters have to be strategic. So should we ask voters to be strategic or ask voters to just simply put their ranked preference of voters? So that's
Well-
the theory behind.
I mean, we're to the point now where we're mailing the ballots because it's too much effort to come in and vote. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I've got very strong feelings.
Yeah.
You get
And this is
participation
lazy
from
man
the,
part
from
2.
those that care the least.
Yeah. You
Let's
may
not do a
even
primary,
know.
let's just rank them.
Well, maybe the question's been asked
Come on,
already, but if you have
guys.
no primary, doesn't the process get cheaper?
Exactly. I was gonna
If you
say
have no
that.
primary,
You can only have a one election,
right,
Which we usually do.
it should be half the
Don't we?
price, right?
yep, exactly, and it is.
It is.
Yeah.
We only build for what
So,
we sell.
so if you don't think you're gonna have a primary, then you probably are only gonna pay for a general. I don't know if you have a sense of whether you think candidates will kind of come in to where you need a primary or not, but
Well, we've never had more than 8 in the last,
We had a primary.
well, I know, but
With
we have
us.
primary, yes, but I mean, in terms of, we've never had 4
Remember
positions
that?
open.
No, we haven't.
In 12 years, I think the most we've ever had run is 8, the most.
yeah.
So,
And wasn't it down to 6? Cause yeah, they.
and then we just took it down to 6,
Mhm.
and so 2 got eliminated. So I don't know, I
Not the first time.
just have, I have mixed feelings about it, partly because, you know, like you said, 2020, doesn't matter what we think, it's gonna be forced upon us anyways.
This is
like
gonna
it
be
was
forced
when-
upon us?
Like it was, no, not this, but the vote by mail.
I was
Will
gonna have to
be.
get active.
But, I mean, we had the vote by mail thing forced on us with Jason Chaffetz, and we decided to do it on our own, and that cost our city more money. You know, nobody wrote us a check because it cost more than what it would have if we'd just done it in a regular traditional manner. And we typically have a higher voter turnout than everybody,
Yeah.
and I think,
We do?
yeah, we do. We have like the highest voter
Aren't we
turnout
like
in the
30-something
county.
At least we
percent?
did. I don't know if the demographics have changed that or not.
I mean, demographics might have changed
Garbage.
some, but the last time, we were like, not only the highest, but we're like double digit higher than everybody else. Seriously.
We live with,
We
I'm
live
saying
in
this
a
on
different
film,
place.
a bunch of losers.
I mean,
That's all the percentage we can.
Your predecessor, I had lengthy conversations with him. He couldn't figure out why we had the turnout. I said, well, it's just because we're a small community and everybody wants to get in and,
And that's in the municipal specifically?
yes. So, I mean, we tend to,
So, and that's something to think about going into 2020. When Highland was considering doing their own election, we explained to them, your turnout is gonna be probably lower as a city than it would be otherwise if you do vote by mail. So,
maybe, but I tend to think with the presidential
People show
election,
up
we're gonna
and-
have like
Yeah.
crazy record turnout.
yeah.
Well, we always have, every presidential one, I wait in a huge line,
So,
which is fine. I mean, that's, it's a good thing.
Well, with vote by mail, you don't have to wait, no lines.
Yeah, but then even when we have it, then I come here on election night, right, Royce, and there's a huge line still. I'm like, you idiots, you got your friggin' ballot, bring it in and dump it in the box.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've made
I
some
just said
changes
that on
this
camera
year.
again too.
We've
I'm
made,
not running for you.
we've made some changes in the process that are gonna eliminate those lines in 2020. I mean, this year as well. I
So
don't
no matter what, if we do the vote by mail and the voting in here, I don't have to do this, do I?
no.
Well, your city can choose to
This
do
is
ranked choice
nonsense.
or not.
This is nonsense to me. It is, I'm just,
Okay.
I just want
You
to
know
know
how
how
she's
to
gonna
go.
vote.
You're not.
I fasted and prayed
You're not
about it and I
on-
didn't like
You're
it.
not on the fence, I love it.
Well, it's just, come on, if it isn't broken, don't fix it, like you said.
So,
Don't reinvent the
It
wheel.
is
We already
broken in
have
the
it.
sense a lot of people are concerned about the spoiler effect. So one example is he was talking about in the partisan election, like within the party, you had the congressional election to fill Jason Chaffetz's vacancy. And you had a three-way race between Tanner Ainge, who's now county commissioner, Chris Herod, who was a state senator, and then John Curtis, who's now congressman. And John Curtis won, he got the most votes, but he got less than 50%. So what ends up happening is he goes to Congress and everybody's criticizing him because they're saying, well, a majority of people didn't want you because a majority of people voted for these other people. So that puts him as the new elected official in a weird position where he doesn't feel like he's representing everybody because people are questioning his victory because it was less than 50%. So if you'd had a ranked choice, you could say, no, I got 50%, I got a majority. You
So
know?
I have bragging rights?
It's not about bragging rights,
I
it's
mean, do you know
about,
what I'm saying?
Not
Like,
bragging
I'm the devil's advocate, but
yeah.
I just feel like you get your one vote. You
So-
shouldn't, if your first one doesn't work out, then we'll go for two. or
It's just
three.
tough to be like, I got
It's kinda
elected
weird.
under the rules of the game and people are calling me illegitimate. That's a tough thing if you're
Well,
elected
but
official.
at that
Listen,
point in
I have
time,
not
then
had
that
anyone call
candidate
me
needs to
illegitimate in this
earn
city.
the trust and respect of everybody.
Sure.
And needs to represent everybody, not just the 40% that me Mike gets or whatever the
Right.
case may be.
Right.
If people
Better
really
reach
did
out.
their job, that wouldn't matter. Because they, when they're elected, they represent everybody. Whether they agree with them or not, they still represent them.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, in today's world, some
You're
people
drinking
don't
this
feel
early,
that way.
aren't
Well, I think it's a good way to go.
And we usually always agree.
All I know is where I
I think
used
it's
to
a good
live,
way
they
to go. I
did
think it's
this,
a
and
reasonable
instead of
way to
having
do
half the
this.
people mad at them, once somebody, the second choice won, they had everybody mad, not just half the people. They had everybody mad, because how can somebody that didn't even get, 50% of the first place votes be in office as the mayor? And talk about somebody that didn't get any support from anybody, because nobody liked the way it turned out.
With the ranked?
Yeah.
I just would like to see it successful on a bigger scale. Do you know what I'm saying?
So they do it in Maine. They elected a congressman in Maine last year that way.
Okay.
Minneapolis does this for their municipal elections.
So I'm asking my sister.
Um,
She loves it.
Most of the cities in California do.
Yeah, there's a lot
Yeah,
of
we
cities in
don't
California do it.
They're bankrupt.
You're changing my mind.
That's what I'm saying. That's not a selling point.
I don't want to be on the
No.
bleeding edge of this. And you notice, I said bleeding, not leading, bleeding
I
edge.
just vacation.
While we work
30
through this,
years.
and, I mean, if this is
I only vacation.
coming,
30 years.
let's let somebody else work out all the bugs.
That's kind of what I think so.
Well, the bugs, there's no bugs.
Well,
There's bugs to
It's just that
me.
you believe in the
well,
process.
so the system,
I mean, unless you write
The
code
system
that
may
doesn't
work.
tally right, there are no bugs.
That's true. I
but
see what
you
you're
gotta
saying.
get people to understand how that works.
Well-
And that's a whole nother
Yeah, I had to
ballgame.
have a whole lesson.
That's a different, there's two things that I see is, one,
I understand it now.
I can see that the ballot is confusing because people are like, oh, I get a
Actually-
vote for 5 first placers.
Is voter turnout lower
Right.
with this?
Yeah, and that invalidates the ballot.
Tends to be higher,
So that-
and the
that's my
reason
bigger
is
problem.
So somebody
because,
Because
spoils the
I'm
ballot,
looking at
goes and says Jabba the Hutt gets first, second,
Yeah.
third, fourth, and fifth.
the reason
They
it
just
tends
spoil
to be
the-
higher is voters think about it differently. Because now it's, who are you gonna vote for? It's not, who are you gonna vote for? It's, you have to vote, how do you rank these people that are running? So now the voter has to think, it's not just pick one and go home, it's, I gotta get to know all the candidates and compare and contrast and think about how I stack them up and compare them one to another. And so that the voter gets a little more engaged. Voters kind of do a little more homework theoretically and get to know the candidates and what differentiates them. And then one of the things that we find is that it can increase the sort of level of civic dialogue because the candidates aren't like, you're either red or you're blue. You're either with me or you're against me. Because you've got multiple candidates, you say, well, I'm Mean Mike and I really strongly believe this, but Sweet Susie and I actually agree on this other issue. So if you like Sweet Susie, and I understand why you might like Sweet Susie over me, remember that Sweet Susie and I, we agree on this other issue. So if Sweet Susie's your first choice, I ought to be your second choice, because Sweet Susie and I agree on this other issue. So what you find is the candidates, instead of trying to sort of firebomb each other, the candidates are kind of trying to compare and contrast themselves, and really more on the issues and less on that you're either red or you're blue. You're either part of this tribe or you're with me, you're against me. And you see a lot of that in elections where it's kind of tribal conflict, right? You're either on one side of the aisle or the
Oh, Rich,
other.
that's not really an issue.
Okay.
Do you know who's opted in?
So right now, Payson and
That's not a
Vineyard.
selling point for me.
Into ranked choice? Okay.
Yeah. So Payson and Vineyard are the ones that are for sure. And then we have till April 15th, so there's still some more considering.
Okay, question. Do we do our ballot through you if we don't do it this way?
You don't have to. You could do your own election and do this.
But you do our ballot regardless? Right?
No, that's two decisions to
Because
make.
I want
That's
to
the
hear.
next thing we're gonna talk about,
Okay,
is
okay.
entering an interlocal agreement with the county that have
Yeah.
them do their
I just feel like
voting.
I need to hear the other side of the story, and I want to see hard numbers, that it proves that the voter turnout is higher. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I literally look at this and I think there is no way you're going to show me numbers that show that this is higher. 'Cause
Why do you
most
think
people-
this would improve
Because
voter turnout?
He said it did.
I don't, it improves voter turnout.
But
Improves voter
improves
turnout.
it.
Like more people will vote. I mean, it's hard to say, right? Because there's a lot of things that impact why voters turn out or not turn
Yeah,
out.
that's a hard correlation in my mind to make.
But
Causation does not equal correlation.
But with this, the idea is the voter engagement goes up because now it's not just vote for one. It's who are you going to vote for? How are you going to rank them? So now the voter they have a new assignment. It's not just pick one of these and go home.
Becomes even more political.
Or more policy based is the idea.
And you can see what I'm saying though, can't you, with that? Like,
Not really.
I'm a really passionate person, and I didn't care who was gonna win the presidential election. I did not vote based on that. I voted based on who I believed would be the best, and I knew the person I voted for didn't even have a
Mark,
chance
well, here, speak of the
anywhere,
devil.
right?
He's here.
But
Yeah, you're
I
the
think
one
voted what you
that,
should
you're the
have.
one that's, unleashed this upon
We're
us.
using your name in vain.
So,
and
yeah.
That's
fine.
So,
I don't know. I just think, and you're saying how you're like, well, but I agree with him on this or this. That's what I'm saying. I feel like it would turn it more political that way. I just want to.
well, that or we're gonna
I don't
have
know,
a
I'm
bunch of
involved
Star
in it.
Valley sneeches where everybody decides to be the same so that nobody's different.
Well, that'll never be me.
You guys have,
That's not an
you guys
issue.
have all been pretty quiet.
I know, that's
Well,
because
it's
I don't
all
shut
the
up.
change of the process. I mean, normally you have a primary,
Yeah.
and you end up with like the two strongest parties, right? And then they have some time to then go head to head on policies, you know,
Well, that's
debates,
with
whatever.
municipal, you can't go head to head because you're gonna end up either with, you know, the minimum, you're gonna have 4 people. 4 people in a race
At the
for
minimum?
2 spots, yeah.
Okay.
For your city, right? Because the least amount of people you'd have on a ballot in a general election is 4 people to fill 2
To
spots.
fill 2 spots, yes.
Right. So you could end up in a situation where one of those people, maybe your second spot that gets filled is less than 50%. Because people voted for a different combination of candidates,
They,
so.
they bet on the wrong horse.
So in a general, you could still use this in a municipal election, to pick your 2 out of your 4. Because it's not head-to-head, because you know, if you had districted seats where you had like seat A and seat B, then you could have, you know, head-to-head in each of those, so.
Listen, if you bring me hard numbers and you prove it to me,
Or turnout.
yeah, I'm gonna
Tricia,
be more-
you got 6 days.
that's what I'm saying. You gotta get going.
So,
You got
I don't think
6 days.
anything would convince
Because I am not
you.
calculator. Mayor's
Why
looking at
is-
me.
You're right.
Why is turnout
It's not that, but I'm
so
saying, this,
critical to you?
it's not. This is overwhelming.
In that, understanding how it works?
1, 2, yeah,
You're gonna
I'm
get
telling
some
you right
people
now.
going,
Well-
fill out, this is my
Well,
first choice. this
pretty
is
much
my
everybody over
second,
60 is
fill it out,
gonna be
it's
completely
validate the
confused
ballot.
and will be down.
'Cause they
figuring
can't
Some
it out.
40-year-olds are
They're
gonna be
saying you can only
confused.
vote for 2. They're gonna say.
Well,
Speaking from
You
my.
can vote for all.
What problem?
You can vote for all.
Yeah, Mark, let's hear from you.
Can I comment?
Bill?
Yeah. So this is my fault, Representative Roberts, this, that's fine, I can be dead to you. This has been a passion of mine since I got elected, for a number of reasons. I get frustrated with the current election process, and then we live in this country that is supposed to have, you know, representative government, and representative government theoretically should be, you know, getting at least a majority of the vote. But even that has problems too, because you don't even get a majority of the people showing up to vote in the first place. So regardless of all that, and then it also caught on to me because I get tired of the especially in the partisan general elections and different things, you get stuck in this position where it's like one or the other, or you end up voting against people instead of for people, because it's like, well, I don't only like that person, but if I vote for this person, then it's really casting a vote for that person, so I have to vote for this person because I don't like that person. Because if I vote for the person I want to, then I'm just throwing my vote away,
Yeah,
right?
I've never done that.
And that's great, that's great, and I don't do, I just vote for who I want to, right? But people have this conversation in their heads. A lot of people, I know a lot of people do. The mayor does, he talks in his head all the time. Anyway, so that's one thing, and then you get vote splitting, right? So if you got 4 people running, you might have 3 people who think the same way, are very similar, and they're gonna split all the votes, and then the 4th person ends up with, you know, maybe 40% or 35%, but because all these people split the vote, this person's gonna win, but the majority of the people really supported this idea, whatever it was, right? But the vote was split because you had vote splitting. Municipal races, you see this all the time. I've seen situations where even in primaries, you got 8 people running for, you know, these spots, and they realize, hey, we all think alike, we're gonna split the votes here, so let's get together and figure out which one of us is gonna run, type of thing. That happens all the time on municipal levels. Or things move along, or you have what happened in Provo where
there was a bunch of vote splitting, and then the one guy got mad because he didn't make it through the primary, so then he ends up being a write-in candidate. So now you got 3 people on the mayoral ballot in Provo, and you know, I'm not, nothing against Kafusi, but she won, she didn't get 50% of the vote, because you have this vote splitting going on. So for me, ranked choice voting solves this. It's really, I think a better term is instant runoff voting, because, and we've been using this in the party. I'm sure you've used it before. In my caucuses that I go to, we've used it for years, and people haven't had a hard time figuring it out. I mean, for years, I've used this, going back to 2007 or 8, at least in my caucuses. And I know in the party, at the county and state level, it's been used. And what it does, instead of having multiple rounds, because really what we should do is we should have a round of voting, narrow it down, right? Then we come back and have another round, but it's cost prohibitive, right? There's no way we could do that. And then the second round, whenever all states that have runoffs, that second time when you come back, there's even less people that show up that second time. We all know what our July and August and September look like, and we don't want to come back and vote again. And nor do you want to be out campaigning in July and August, you know, for this runoff thing. So what instant runoff voting, ranked choice voting does, it compresses that. It puts it all into one. So it does a mock multiple rounds. And so we say, hey, my first round, I want this person. And if that guy doesn't make it through the first round, and I got to come back, then it's this person. And if that person doesn't make it through that round, then it's this person and this person and this person. And then the software does those multiple rounds by itself. So there's been, Australia does this, there's the Grammys. This is how they do the Grammys.
I mean, that's not a selling point for me.
I'm just telling you who uses it, okay? I didn't know if Australia, Canada,
So, yeah, that didn't help.
Albuquerque, El Paso, Maine, and
I'm still
getting
waiting.
closer.
Bring it to me, give me some.
Give me a red state.
Red state, yeah. Well, yeah, that is a funny part about this is there's, you get these weird partisan things, and I don't think it's partisan at all. So Maine adopted this statewide by citizen ballot initiative. I'm not sure if you've talked about this already.
Not the details, yeah.
Probably repeating a bunch
No,
of
you're
stuff. Anyway, Maine adopted this by initiative. And so last election cycle is the first time they did it. I'll send you some stuff from Portland, the city of Portland. They elected their mayor this way last time. And there's an article from the city of Portland in Maine where it talks about, hey, everybody said nobody's gonna be able to figure out how this works, bad voter turnout, and if anything, it was opposite of that.
Okay, send it to me.
So I'll send you the
I
article.
want hard data.
You can read that.
I mean, but Portland,
Maine, Portland, Maine.
oh, I thought. it was
Portland,
Portland.
Maine.
Okay, I
Yeah.
did not hear that. I was like,
Portland,
Portland,
Maine,
Peak
yeah.
Portland, weird Portland?
Yeah, so the entire state of Maine did this, and there was I know some guys that are legislators over there, and they're actually pretty upset about it. There's one congressional district that did this, and there's 3 or 4 people running, and the Republican guy didn't get in, right? And I'm Republican, and these guys are Republican. They're like, it's ranked choice, and so I said, well, explain to me what happened. They said, well, you had this Democrat guy, and this other liberal independent guy, and this other party guy. You know, they're all liberal guys running, and they were, you know, in the past, they just split the votes, and our Republican got in. And so this year, you know, during the multiple rounds, the Democrat ended up winning. And I looked down and I said, well, then it worked, right? I mean, you may not like the results, but the majority of the people wanted that, right? That's what they wanted. That
Because
was
their second or third choice.
multiple rounds of voting, right? And you do the multiple rounds.
I understand
Yeah.
the theory, but I'm saying to me, like, it's one or bust. But
Yeah.
that's how I am as a person.
Yeah.
I'm really decisive, so I'm.
You don't want to be second.
So you wouldn't come back if there was a runoff. You wouldn't come back. You'd be like, oh, I already voted. Like if the state had a
I'd
runoff.
write in the person that I wanted again.
So if because we may go to a runoff on the state level, just so you know, because we have a situation now for our primaries at the state level where there's multiple people on the ballot, and there's plenty of people within the Republican Democrat Party that don't necessarily like this, because now we may be nominating somebody with less than 50%. And so there's a proposal in the state level to have a runoff like a few weeks later. And so what you're saying is that you wouldn't participate in the runoff. You would go and just vote in the primary, and then if nobody got 50 and there's,
No, if my guy went through, then I go vote again.
oh, but if your guy didn't get through, then you wouldn't vote
And I
again?
write him in.
You write him in, well, that's fine, you can still,
how I roll.
do this. You can
That's how I
still
roll.
do-
Hey, Chris Aaron got my vote.
That's right, you can still do that.
Because he
Look,
was my guy.
and even with ranked choice voting, you don't have to rank everybody. There's nothing that says you have to rank everybody. It just means that you're not participating in the next round, right? But there's nothing that says that you could just say, this is my guy, that's it. But think about this, there's, I know people in Payson told me this, they're like, when we have 5 people running for 3 seats type of thing, I have people that come to me and say, hey, I really want to vote, you're my guy, right? But they really have 3 votes, right? Because they can vote for 3 people. He said, but they don't vote for the other 3 people because they're worried if they vote for the other person, then it hurts them, right? And I had people in Salem telling me the same thing, like council member, he's like, yeah, it was weird for me when I went to vote because I was like, well, I want myself, but I'm not voting for anybody else. So really they're throwing away their other 2 votes.
Well, no, they just moved themselves up. By not giving to the other guy, then
It
they're
essentially
still a
is
vote further away from them. I mean, if you're,
That's a good way to look at it too, right, yeah. So they could have had a say in other people, but they didn't because they wanted to make sure that their guy
well,
got it.
sure, I mean,
Yeah.
like if I went, I mean, I'll be honest with you, last time, that's exactly what I did. I didn't vote for the other guys because I wanted as much distance between me and the next
Now
guy.
you know how you feel
And I felt
about
like
it.
that was the way to do it.
Yeah.
Because
I didn't
wanted
even think
to,
that,
I wanted to
Nelson,
make
but now
sure
that
that I
I
got
know.
there. I knew
Yeah.
that we'd end up with 2 more anyway.
That's exactly
But
right.
let's not close that.
Why give them a vote, right? With ranked
But
choice
that's my
voting,
choice.
it takes that away, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't exist. Everybody can vote and you get to have a choice in all 3 spots that are your right as a citizen. And
Yeah, but if I don't want to throw a vote to the other guys, now I either don't vote or.
But with ranked choice
Just vote for
voting,
one.
that scenario doesn't exist.
Unless I only vote once. And my guy gets through on the first round, then it would.
No. Ranked, so that scenario exists, right? Because you have multiple people fighting for 3 spots, right? Currently, right? And so if I vote for somebody else, it can take a vote away from you, right? It can put them ahead of you. With ranked choice voting,
First round.
you just rank everybody. So the first round, right? So you win the first round. Well, you can still choose the other 2 spots on the council, right? And so now your second choice can go, is a vote cast in the next
But
round.
he's only worried about himself.
Yeah.
I can
mean,
tell
so,
that,
I mean,
yeah.
that's, if I voted on this, I'd go first choice and then I'd go 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Well, you drop, yeah.
So the second one didn't go to anybody.
You're just dropping out of the second round.
Yeah.
That's all he wants to do, because he doesn't want to give any vote to anybody else. but-
You still have a second round
I
because
mean,
you go to your first.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same
He
effect.
just
ranked
can
choice
only
voting.
vote for
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
no others.
Or whoever my candidate happens to be. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, in the presidential election, I had one guy and that was the only guy I voted for.
That's what I'm talking
And
about.
it's the only one I would have voted for.
Me too.
Jim, you have any questions?
He's so sick of hearing from us.
He probably is. He's like, I want
As
to.
I'm-
I'm gonna ask for a motion here in a few minutes, so
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
we're
do
gonna
that.
see where this lands.
This afternoon, I spent some time on the website, so I understand this, and I'm for this. First off, it cuts our costs in half. Second, it eliminates, like
Does
you
it
said,
cut our
there's the
costs
split
in half?
votes.
But you only have one election,
One-
period.
No, but we don't usually have a primary. We need to deal with real numbers, not theories of real numbers.
We could have a primary, it doesn't say we
We
won't.
couldn't even get enough people to run last.
We're gonna have one election if we do this. Unless there's nobody,
But then in
unless we
some
don't get
ways-
4.
But if we only have one election, we may have somebody who, in the past, I mean, we've had 2, maybe 3 primaries as long as I've lived here. And I know in those elections, there were individuals that came in and tested the water to see if people would actually support it before they went out and spent any real hard money on signs and campaigning and those types of things, because you go this way, you go big,
Oh,
or you
it's a
don't even
crapshoot.
go at
So
all.
this shortens the election cycle too, so you don't have to,
Yep.
Sure.
what's it called,
You don't have
file till later.
Right.
Yep.
So you don't have people running all summer long.
I mean, this will
Well,
never
we
affect.
typically don't here. I mean, it's like you go in and you file and then it's crickets until the first week of September.
Unless you
Well,
have a
not in the primary.
Yeah.
Because I had to do it twice, and that was disgusting.
I know.
of this.
I had to
We
put
did
signs
it.
up twice.
Yeah.
We did it
Yeah.
twice with you.
Yeah,
But
we did
listen,
it twice, you
in
know, I
some
mean,
ways,
it's
that
just-
was good because I think it allowed people to get to know us better. Because we did have 2 meet the candidate nights, you know? And somehow, I got voted in.
I think you're,
Well,
so no questions. Jared, any other questions?
I can't drink the Kool-Aid until I've seen it
Any
play
other
out a lot
questions?
more. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
I'm just
The
ecstatic
mayor
you're
is
thinking
drinking the
about it.
Kool-Aid so hard though.
I'm gonna ask for a vote.
It's your council.
Yeah, I know it. I just wanna make sure everybody's had enough discussion, and then, because I'll entertain a motion.
well, to be honest with you, the thing that I have the hardest time with, and this isn't reflected directly on you because it wasn't your call the last time around, but when the county forces us by coming in and manipulating and making it cost more to do it one way versus the other, because it's more cost efficient for the bigger cities to do it that way than it is for us, and our options are taken off the table, that kind of bothers me. I mean,
Well, I'm in that camp. I'm in the camp that says, if you can't get your butt off the couch and stand in a line
That's
for
what I
15
say
minutes to
too.
vote, you shouldn't even be voting because you don't know what you're voting for.
You have people giving their lives
That's
for our
my
freedom. You
personal
get off your
opinion
butt and
of-
go vote.
Yeah.
Standing up as an American and going down and putting my name on a checkbox or whatever and
agree.
saying, I voted,
I agree,
right?
absolutely.
That's a different issue.
Well, and they're not here, hopefully,
They're-
coercing you tonight either.
no,
I passed this bill to be an
That's my
option.
head, that's my head.
but
Outside.
that happened with Jason
Officer, I
Chaffetz
need-
still. I mean,
Sure,
it was-
right.
We had no choice, even though we had
Yeah.
voted to zig when everybody else, except for one other city in
Yeah.
the county zagged, and we were gonna do our own thing, and then Jason Chaffetz did his thing, and then it cost us a whole
It
lot
was a
more money.
mess.
So-
And there's an appropriation for some funds that could go to the cities to help with education to the, I don't know if that was mentioned or not.
No, not yet.
Yeah, so
We haven't
there's,
gotten ours yelling at me.
yeah, so there's, you're not alone in this. The state is really supportive of this and wants to see this happen. They set some money aside in the lieutenant governor's office that the cities who opt into this can use for education, right? Send out mailers, different things. Here's how it's gonna work this year, here's what it looks like, here's what your ballot might be. So that you don't have to worry about, taking that burden on yourselves.
Yeah, 'cause that's probably my biggest concern is just people confused on,
Yeah.
I was.
right? I mean, it's really not that confusing.
I'm
You
not
just put
dumb.
a dot in every,
I graduated
Right.
college with honors. I am not stupid,
I
okay?
didn't say you were,
No, but I'm saying, I can't understand it just looking at it, like, I'm thinking the average Joe Schmo is not, you know what I mean? And I have never missed
Yeah.
voting, not once in my life, so I'm pretty,
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Just-
say, if I'm having a hard time,
I'll send you information, but
I
that
want it.
hasn't been the experience in places that have done it.
seriously, no.
No.
all right, let's end the discussion here. I think we're gonna move on, and is there anybody,
I absolutely would.
anybody on the council willing to make a motion to opt into ranked choice voting for this coming
Wait, for
election
20,
cycle?
for which one? 20?
2019.
What's coming up?
I thought you said something about 2020.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
That's
this
a
is,
20.
we're
well,
voting on
2020, we're gonna have vote by mail, and they've taken that from us.
But I think
Mayor?
the sticker this
Yes.
time, I have to bring it in to get my.
All right, we've got a motion on the table from Jim to adopt choice ranked voting. Do I have a second?
I'll
I'm
sec-
gonna-
oh.
okay, yeah.
I'll second it so we can vote on it.
I just want a second.
Second.
You second the adoption of it.
So we can make a
So we can
vote.
vote.
So we can vote, not
That's
because
what I'm
I'm
saying,
gonna
she's
vote
voting.
yes,
All right.
but because I want it to go to a
Great.
vote.
That means she wants to,
There's a number of ways to
this
kill
horse is
votes.
beaten to death, she wants to get it.
Great, we have a motion and a second on the table. So now I'm gonna do roll call vote. And we'll start with Jim.
Aye.
Nay.
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 Okay, well, there you go.
I don't play the political game very well, I'm sorry.
And the motion
2021.
fails to carry.
Hey, that doesn't hurt my feelings. Well,
We don't play
whatever
political
you
games
want.
either
Well,
very well.
yeah.
And if that hurts
Oh, I
my
can't
feelings,
believe you guys.
I'm probably not even running for election unless the mayor puts me
Good thing I still like you.
on. Mayor, we usually always agree on stuff.
I
That's
know.
why I just.
I know, I'm so proud of you most of the time.
I voted it down because I think
can
it
keep my car
changes too
later.
much of the process, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it.
Honestly, for me, It's the fact that everywhere where they've embraced it, philosophically, politically, they couldn't be further away from where I'm at personally as an individual. And that's the part that I'm having a really hard time with.
Anybody else have any comment?
I'm
We're gonna move on.
not saying I can't be persuaded, I just wanna see it play
It's too
out
late.
more,
Yeah.
and then maybe,
Next
Yeah,
year?
fair enough.
I'm not gonna, I probably won't be here next year.
Not offended.
I'd have to run
Now you
again
have to, because you just,
to get my film.
Well, she may drop out.
you gotta redeem yourself, so you gotta run. All right, let's talk about the interlocal agreement then between Utah County and Uxbridge for the administration of the election.
I'd vote that one
Wait,
down.
what? What do you want?
This is the one that three.
Yeah.
Yep. Thoughts?
So, question,
Yes.
this interlocal agreement is either the county supports us in the election or we do it on our own.
Do it
That's
already.
what this is,
So this is what it boils down to?
yes, okay.
Now, what's different in this versus last year? Is there any changes? I mean, because I wasn't, or last time we did this,
I
right?
don't,
It would have been
You were on.
when we all ran.
No, what?
That was the last time we did a regular one, because
Was when we all ran?
No,
We did
mine was
last
the
year,
vote by
we
mail,
did
so I
last
wasn't
year board
part
by
of the
mail,
process
that was
of
changes.
adopting,
yeah.
and
right?
so I don't know if there's any changes here as opposed to last year.
I assume it's just like we did with
Pretty
Jason.
much,
Yeah.
yes. There's a little bit of wording change, just that we.
Basically, you're gonna mail out the ballots and we're gonna fill them out and mail them in, or they can drop them off at the city. And you do all the tabulation and take care of all the early voting and all of the provisional stuff and everything, right? We basically just have some poll worker sitting here in case they wanna come in and do their own thing, right?
They can vote anywhere in the county.
Anywhere in the county, so it doesn't have to be just at the, that would be nice.
So your Elk Ridge voters can vote anywhere in the county. They don't have to vote, if you facilitate it yourself.
Then they have to vote
They
here.
have to vote.
Okay, I have a question, it's not off topic, but it is, please don't kill me here. Do you find that the mail-in ballots make it harder to get the results and it takes longer? Because I feel like that when I'm looking at results.
The only reason it takes longer is because we have to wait until the last of the ballots have been received in the mail. But the tabulation, we have the equipment, so the tabulations will be a lot faster. But we still have to wait for all of the
You
mail.
still have to, because it has to be.
You're gonna have 90% of the results.
But which basically, generally speaking, is gonna be it.
Yeah.
Not
And we're-
always,
And we're gonna have
obviously.
drop boxes, so if people don't wanna wait on the mail, you don't have to. If you put your ballot in the county election drop box, we pick it up that day and count it that day.
So like when I bring it here,
Mhm.
because I always do to save the
Pick that
stamp, just because I'm,
Yeah, we pick it up and we count it. That's counted by election.
you come and pick them up all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, regularly.
Yeah, so,
And those
so
will
right
be counted
now,
election night.
the problem, yeah, and the problem with mail voting is, you know, so you get the ballot in the mail, you fill it out, you send it back in the mail, well, now you've given it to the post service to get it back to us. If you go and you put it in one of our drop boxes, we're gonna pick it up within a day, and we're gonna count it. And so, now the other problem with the mail is when there's a deadline for getting it postmarked, and that deadline is the day before election.
Yeah.
With the drop box, you can put it into the box up until polls close.
But you could anyway, correct? No?
Well, you could bring it into a polling location, yes.
Yes, you could bring it, that's what I meant, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, so there will be a separate Dropbox and there will be, you can
Yes.
drop them at polling
Yeah.
locations.
There will be in-person polling locations, and there will be drop boxes. The drop boxes will not be locked until polls close.
Okay,
So you can go drop it off at the drop box, and we're gonna be installing one in Salem or Payson, both?
both?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, we're getting fancy.
I know.
Yeah,
I think we're installing between 17 and 20 throughout the county.
Okay.
that's the plan.
I feel like people should come in and vote, but this vote by mail thing, it's fine.
It's a shape that sells.
It
Here's
is
the
what it
thing.
is.
Yeah.
It's gonna go to voting on a computer Sunday probably with
It
face
is.
recognition,
You
so.
nailed it. Yeah, within 10 years, I think we'll have vote by mail or vote by app, I think.
I think so.
And the Russians will own
Then we can have a whole nother.
So Russians-
it. They will own it. They will own it as sure as I.
This guy's conspiracy theorist like no one else. I
Yeah.
love them.
Yeah.
So on the interlocal agreement, I have a question on page 2, section 2, the very last line. It says, parties agree they will not acquire hold nor dispose of real or personal property pursuant to this agreement during this joint undertaking.
What is that?
What does that mean?
Let me look at this.
Stop throwing stuff away, Jim.
Where are you reading this?
Page
Page
2,
two.
Article 2, the last
Section
section.
2, last line.
Okay, so what this is this is a legal term, a legal sentence that's put in there to ensure that this particular agreement is not skirting the law on a purchase of real estate. So there would be other kinds of contractual and legal types of rules that would apply to an interlocal agreement that would have to do with transacting in real or personal property. So the purpose of that is to say, this agreement is not about any of those things. So if somebody were to say, oh, now wait a minute, that interlocal agreement, includes something that's related to a real estate transaction, and now there's these other rules that apply, and you didn't go through those rules when you agreed to this. So that's not, there's no other intention on that sentence about something that we're gonna do related to the
So
election.
the city wants to buy a pickup. This doesn't apply to that. The way I read it, we're talking personal property.
Yeah, pursuant to this agreement.
Yeah.
During this joint undertaking. So the issue is that your purchase of a pickup truck as a city would not be pursuant to this agreement, so that would be outside this agreement, so it wouldn't matter. So
Okay.
this wouldn't control that.
Okay. So when does this agreement end? I didn't find a termination date on
The effective date and duration on section 1,
there. Yeah, but I didn't find an end date.
shall be from the
1 year.
effective date until the completion of the party's responsibilities associated with the 2019 city municipal elections. So once the associated responsibilities with the 2019 elections are over, that's when the agreement has terminated, and it says no longer than 1 year from the date of this agreement. So this agreement is for no more than 1 year, but more likely from the date that you enter into it until the 2019 election stuff is over, which for us, that's the canvas date, which is 3 weeks after election night. So,
So
And
1
then we'll
year-
enter into another one or
for the
whatever.
2021 election.
So the 1 year is a catch-all, if something happens
That's right.
carrying the 19
Yeah.
election on and on and on, after 1 year.
Right,
it's done.
yeah, if there's, and that's a great point. If there's a recount, if you get sued over the results of the election, a lot of that's gonna come on us. Our responsibility's gonna come in. You're gonna be, I could find something on the liability, but I mean, the point is that we're gonna handle all those logistics. We're gonna count, we're gonna tabulate, we're gonna comply with all the state, federal, and local laws for elections, so on your behalf, so you don't have to.
So it's basically this or bust.
Well,
Or we do our own, which costs us more.
you could
No.
do
It
your
doesn't,
own.
where's Royce? I
This
need
is gonna be
numbers.
3,800,
I saw the number.
I think it is.
What is Royce projected?
3,500?
What is-
Well, with your current
Yeah.
voter registration, it'd be 3751. It won't exceed that.
Yeah, there's a cap, so
It's a cap.
3751.
And that's if everybody mailed back,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
As
yeah.
opposed to dropping them off.
Yeah, if
Which
people
would
drop them
reduce-
off, that process.
I always drop them off.
Yeah,
Well, we need to
Smart with
canvass the
that.
city and make sure
Exactly.
people understand that we could save ourselves $1,000.
that's right.
And $1,000 to this city is
So I can get my
significant.
fireworks show.
Yep, and we're gonna try to put that information like in all the materials, in the ballot, in the packet.
Good.
Please drop off in the drop box, but we're not gonna say you can't mail it. If somebody wants to
Yeah, of
mail
course,
it,
of
that's great.
course.
But if somebody wants to put a stamp on it and mail it, then that'll
course.
discount it. But we're gonna push people doing the drop boxes so that it reduces your costs.
Did Royce have to go meet Seth
Okay.
somewhere?
You took a field trip, guess water issues or something.
I just want to know numbers wise what we're looking at.
I would like to.
That's what it
know
is.
a comparison.
No, I
Well,
wanna
no,
know what-
That's what it is if we go their route.
Yeah, I wanna know what
it
Royce
cost us
projects
the
what it
last time we
costs.
did it in-house for the municipal election.
I really do like the idea though of being able to vote wherever, because do you remember that one election when we were like wrapped around the fire station? I was there, I mean, I had little kids then. It wasn't, I can't remember what it was.
The last presidential
I was smart
was
before I had
the
children.
one like,
Yeah, and
Big lines.
I like,
that's
Yeah, but
why
that
I
was a presidential election.
it does, yeah, but yes, you're right. But I think we need to be thinking ahead, like if this is the way we're gonna go, or, you know what I mean?
So this one.
So if I
If I
suspect,
win, we'll get more voters out,
if
vote
we
against me.
don't do it through the county, through the mail, and we do our own, that we're probably gonna have, what? 600 people show up maybe,
maybe,
if we're lucky.
probably not.
Well, what we have between 6 and 800 would be my guess, just based on.
It's an off year, nobody cares.
Well, we still got a lot of time between now and then to tick people off, so, you know, it could change.
I'm doing my
It
best.
really could change.
I'm doing what I can.
I mean, you know, we have another well go down or
I
something
sure
between
do,
now and
every
then.
week do.
It'll all be our fault, we know we had nothing to do.
Another
with
road goes down and they can pick the whole council and mayor.
it. Yep.
We're all done, yeah.
No,
If the well goes down, we're all gone?
We'll just have the city send their minions
Can I
down
get that in
and run
writing?
for us.
Can I get that in writing?
For the state.
Oh, there's Royce.
Royce?
You need to talk to me?
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Royce,
Trish has a
numbers wise?
How much would it cost us to
Yeah.
run the election bar ourselves, do you think?
what did it cost the last time?
I know you don't,
I've
shoot from the hip
never-
here.
I think the last time we were around 2,000, just guessing,
Is that,
when we did it ourselves.
And that's been,
But you'd
what?
have to do a primary.
been over 5 years.
and a like
So it's
primary
gonna
and
be
general
more.
Well,
combined or
That would
separate?
each.
It depends on if we have a need for a primary, whether or not we
Each would
spend
cost
that.
that. But
But
I
we don't-
suspect
but if we don't need a primary, we don't pay for that
2,500
either way.
to,
That's right.
somewhere in there.
What do you,
But
What do
when
you
you
prefer?
compare it to that, I mean, it's not,
Well, I would rather the county do it.
well, that's what I'm saying, how much work? No, but listen, because there's some validity to that, because how much work is it putting on the staff and actually costing us, you know what I'm saying, in employee hours that are spent doing this when they should be,
well, that may be true, but I think that there's probably a perception out there among our constituents that this is one of the things that is under their duties as assigned.
I mean, but Royce shouldn't have to work
Well,
because he's salary, extra hours, because.
well, I'm not saying he has to work extra because he's salary, but they look to the city as the ones that are responsible for administering the election. And when we take the city out of that, then they're going, no, what are we paying the city to do? You know, that's one less thing they're doing for us now. And we're still paying, you know, we didn't
We're
see a
still paying the
reduction.
city to do it.
Well,
We
you're
just
not,
pay
you're
another
paying the
company to
county.
do it for us,
I
with our
suspect.
brains work.
But in real cost, you've got that labor figure for the city.
That's what I'm trying to
It's gonna
say,
be
I think.
charged to elections, and right now we don't do
Well,
that.
okay,
Yes,
so
yes,
I
that's
don't wanna
what-
sound
exactly what I'm
flippant
trying to
here.
say.
Let's say they pull 12 hours times an hourly wage. It's not that big of a figure if you take and
Depends on what
multiply
you
it by
paid
12.
hourly.
Well, I
You
think it
only take
depends.
12 hours to run an election?
No.
No, but I'm just
It's the pay
saying,
I get.
if you take, because they're not in here the whole time. We have election officials that, we bring them lunch and they do their thing and they're here, and then city staff does their thing and they,
Which
They
they
do
have to
things.
come anyway, and we have to pay that anyway, is that factored into, right?
Pardon? The poll workers and training and recruiting, if we do it, is factored.
It's all
into this.
factored into this. So you think 2,500, Royce, do you think that's?
It's really, we don't know.
I know,
It's a
but I'm
guess.
trying to get, like, I
It's-
want
it's a
apples
guess.
to apples,
I'd say
right?
it's gonna be 25.
We haven't done it in the 5 years I've been here,
3,000.
and that was before, so it's been 5 to 7 years since we've done it.
Like, are we
So
looking
I don't know
closer
what
to the number they're trying to?
The
they're-
numbers have changed.
You're not gonna save an awful lot.
That's what I'm trying to say, like, is this even realistic that we're gonna save that much?
well, it comes down to, is it really about savings or is it about people coming in and voting here versus just
You can do
Yeah,
both.
sending in their participation vote?
That's a different topic.
That's a different topic.
Well,
But this is only if everyone sends theirs back, correct? This is my total?
Your total will not exceed the dollar.
Will not exceed that. It will go down for every staff somebody puts on their own, themselves or drops it off here.
So realistically, we could be looking at less than this too, and then we may be almost in the same ballpark.
Right.
And Royce doesn't have to have an ulcer.
Well, yeah.
Royce already has.
I have given Royce an ulcer myself.
it's raining right now, he's got one.
I have one right now.
For me, the ease of it and being able to vote wherever I do think is really nice, but that's my own opinion.
Are we ready to,
I am.
Are we ready to
I'm
move?
ready to vote. Are you ready to vote?
any more discussion?
Should I get some?
I'm not gonna change where I'm headed.
Somebody wanna make a motion to enter into the interlocal agreement?
I will make a motion that we enter into the interlocal agreement between Utah County and Elk Ridge for the administration of the 2019 municipal elections.
All right, who seconds?
I second.
Tricia seconds. Let's do a roll call vote. Start with Jim again.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
I.
So the ayes have it.
Doesn't matter.
4-1, did I get that right?
I know.
You were the dissenting vote on that?
Nelson, I always respect you when you stick to your guns.
Well, I'm telling you, right now, I mean, I've just.
Okay,
I feel
the
like
ayes have it.
more of a
Even though he wears
slip
that
away.
ugly BYU crap around me, I still respect him.
All right, wow, that was,
I wasn't below the belt. Everyone knows what
No,
you're talking about.
we know how.
We have awesome council meetings, Mark, can you tell?
I have never,
Missing out.
We
this
don't.
has actually been really not even too bad.
You know, if you were a man,
Bring your
you'd get a
popcorn next
response.
time.
But I'm not gonna give you one.
All right, let's move on. Let's go down here. We can run these other, thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Guys, can come back anytime. We'll be here all year. That's how that rolls.
Let's finish this up real quick. Let's do that. Kelly Acres. Acceptance of the durability.
Mayor, do you have anything else for me? Or anything
No,
else
I'll
we
reach
can help
out,
with?
Mark. I'll
Okay.
reach out, okay?
All right.
Maybe next Friday. You gonna be around?
Reach, no,
Okay,
I'm out of town.
following Friday, so a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, let's just do Monday.
Okay.
When's the session start? Do you have any idea yet?
That's a long ways away. Don't even, we just finished.
No, I know.
Yeah, next year.
You're gonna
No,
have-
they're having a special
Special
session,
session.
right, on this whole
Oh, on the.
Tax.
tax thing?
Hey, Francis said you were, so you're going to.
I
That's what he told me.
He said we were gonna
Week
pass
after.
that bill too.
Well, I know it, but,
All right, so it's not in there.
Yeah.
So, couple
well,
weeks.
we'll see.
We got a lot to work to do if we're gonna have a special session on that issue.
Yes.
so-
Yeah, well, both him and Mike think we're going there.
Yeah.
Okay, Kelly Acres. Public improvement's been completed. David Jean has
On vacation.
signed off on it, and we just need to accept it as durability.
You think the weather's gonna permit by April 30th?
But if it doesn't, then it'll, right, if weather permits,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, by April 30th. It could be raining between now and
Stop.
And that'll be up to
I
you.
motion that we move
Thank you.
to accept Kelly Acres into the durability, period.
Okay, we have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second. Paul, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, that carries. Planning Commission member, so I've been interviewing some appointments for Planning Commission and interviewed Gordon here. He's Gordon Reynolds. And I'm here and would like to recommend that we approve him for membership on the Planning Commission.
So is he an alternate member? or-
No, he'll be a full-time member.
Okay.
So, why don't you take a minute? I don't know if I think Jared knows you, but others may not. Will you just take a minute and just kind of introduce yourself real quick? And
Sure. Gordon Reynolds, we moved here into Elk Ridge in June. We built a home over on Sage Lane. Came from Lehigh. We're 20 years in Lehigh. We're shocked and appalled at what's happened in Lehigh. And I wanted to get involved down here because I'm gonna die in Elk Ridge. This is where we're gonna stay and love it down here and just wanna become involved and just do what we can to contribute. So I work for Mountain Land Technical College. I'm the director of the trades programs and pretty excited about our property in Payson that was just donated to us. We'll have a presence down here too, but I work out of Orem and over the Orem campus. So that's me in a nutshell.
great, fantastic. So I recommend that we, what was the terminology, Royce?
To appoint to the planning commission.
Okay, that we appoint Gordon Reynolds to the full-time Planning Commission member.
So this is no reflection on you. Do we have a period of time where they have to be a resident before we can appoint them to the position? In the
It's
planning
not only
commission
running
bylaws?
for,
Or is that, or
I
it
think that's
doesn't
only-
apply on this?
I don't think it applies in
There
this.
isn't, okay. I just wanted.
We broke it up.
year?
No,
June,
it's not.
June 8th is a year.
Okay, well, you're almost there.
Took us a year to build.
You've had property.
We've seen that hair split, so yeah. Okay.
I motion that we approve Gordon Reynolds to member on the planning commission.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Welcome,
Thank you.
awesome.
You're gonna regret this.
Yeah, because 3 of us have been on.
All right. Approving the minutes of March 26th.
I motion we approve the city council meeting minutes for March 26, 2019.
Table,
Second.
all seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain. Not here.
Okay, did you get that, Laura, that we had an abstention?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Are we done?
We are done with the regular portion of our council
You
meeting.
never thought that in.
There is a need to go into closed session to discuss contract negotiations.
Okay. So with
You'll,
With that in mind, I will make a motion that we go into a closed session pursuant to state code to discuss contract negotiations
And close out the regular.
and close out the regular city
He
council.
gets to use this.
we have a motion on the table.
Second.
And we have a second. Do we have
You
to
gotta
roll
do
call?
all, you gotta pull it.
We'll start over here.
I.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's do it. Let's take a 5-minute breather
Are
on
you
this
training
stuff.
them or?
Yes.
No, for Gordon. Gordon.
Control.